All right, I'm back. I'm back in the saddle again. All right. So I know I just talked about not promoting anime and stuff, but I couldn't resist. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Yu Yu Hakusho, they made a live action version of that, and I normally steer clear of these live action adaptations of anime because they always suck dicks. So I normally don't watch them, or I may try to give them a view, but I've always been disappointed. Bleach was horrible. Full Metal Alchemist was horrible. So many other things have been horrible. So I just don't even really watch them. But then One Piece came out, and I was actually surprised by that, and I actually enjoyed it. So when Yu Yu Hakusho came out, I was like, oh well, if I can find it for free somewhere, I'm gonna check it out. And I found it for free. And this is another one that I thought was pretty good. Now, I have to talk about it in different ways. So if you have never seen this show before and you sit down and watch it, you probably will really like it. It is, I guess, not unique anymore, but it is an interesting show. The actors do really good jobs. The characters are kind of interesting. The fox guy and the three-eyed guy, Hiei, they're not really fully fleshed out. I guess that'll happen in the following follow-up seasons and the next seasons or whatever. But they do a good enough job introducing them towards the middle and slash end. But other than that, if you've never seen or heard of this show before, this anime or this manga, you will like this, I believe. I enjoyed it. And I think if I just saw it, I would have been like, oh, this is kind of cool. And what made it cool is not only do the actors do great jobs, all the actors do great jobs. So it doesn't make it comical or embarrassing. But the fucking choreography and special effects, I was blown away that this television show, I mean, the choreography made this show what it needed to be. The way that these guys are battling each other, I mean, they go from just practical choreography and go right into special effects perfectly. And this is a Japanese television show, but they put the money where it needed to be put. I always say that in a lot of these shows slash movies. They put a lot of the money, pump it into these special effects, and don't use the money properly for like the choreography. Because that's what in certain shows slash movies, you want the choreography to stand out. And like in this show, which is all about fighting. So the choreography, it blew me away. It sold it. It sold it. This guy's fighting like this red Hulk-ish looking demon guy. Looked like a Mexican laborer who was out in the sun for too long, and they were fighting. And normally that would always be pretty bad. That was very well done. The effects, I mean, they weren't like perfection, but I mean, it's a cartoon thing. What do you expect? The effects were really good. I believed it. I liked the facial expressions of the demon, or what do they call it? The yokai. I liked just the way the physics were done properly. It was, for the most part, the physics were done properly. I mean, you got humans fighting demons and shit in a fantasy world, shooting energy balls out of their fingertips and shit. So obviously it's going to be a little crazy. But what I mean is the physics weren't like ridiculously dumb. It kind of went the way it would go in this fantastic situation. So the are being done properly in these fights. There are stakes in the fights. It was surprisingly really well done. It's not a great show at all, but it is a fun show and it's an interesting show. So that's if you've never seen it before. If you've seen the anime before, I've seen the anime. I never watched the anime initially when it came out, but I watched it. I don't know, like several years ago. I don't remember it fully, but as someone who's watched it, I didn't love the anime. I really enjoyed it when it first started. The show starts off just like this television. The anime starts off just like this show. Kid dies, gets recruited as the spirit detective, meets up with all these other characters, and he's this detective who's supposed to be solving these cases that this his chief, whatever this guy is, he turns into a baby sometimes. He gives him these cases to solve. the reason I didn't love the show is the show goes from that and kind of devolves into just like these tournament battles. So like the every following season is just like a tournament thing where each of the main characters has to overcome some villain and some obstacle in their existence, and then it all boils down to Urameshi, who has to fight the final fight, and it just becomes repetitive and boring until like I think the last season when they go to the demon world, which kind of makes it a little bit more interesting, but not by much. So this is not a great anime at all. I would avoid it. But as someone who's watched it, watching this again, they tried to be as faithful as possible, but they toned it down when they needed to. And that is a very big distinction. I normally want people to follow the source material because the source material is what made the product so great and viable that a production studio says we should make a remake of this because this thing is so popular that it will make us money. So if you have that logic, then don't fucking change nothing. Leave it the same. But in certain things, like One Piece, like this, if you're going to be turning into live action, you need to dial certain things down because it becomes nonsensical and a little too childish and comical and juvenile. So you don't want to do that. And they are smart enough. Well, the people that made this were smart enough to be as faithful as they could, which they were pretty goddamn faithful, but they toned it down when they needed to, and that made the show believable, and it made it viewable and palatable for adults, for people who may have watched this when they were young but are now adults, and for adults who've never seen this, heard of this before, or people have never heard of it before. So I appreciated that. It's pretty faithful. It's pretty, especially the very beginning of it. Him fighting Urameshi and Hiei fighting in that warehouse. The Fox guy, I forget what his name is, Kurama or something like that. That was done well. They did a very good job. And if you can find, I hate Netflix, so I don't promote Netflix. But if you can find this for free somewhere, I would check it out. It is pretty fun ride, and pretty enjoyable. Some things that I don't like, and this is because of the anime. Again, they were faithful, and I still have the last episode to watch, but I don't have time to wait to do that. I'm an adult and I have other things in a life, and I don't get paid for this. But some of the things I don't like, and again, it's because of this comes from the anime. This is not necessarily the show. Is this anime, this manga, kind of did this kind of. I mean, this came out before Bleach, but I'm just comparing it to Bleach because Bleach to me is one of the biggest offenders when it comes to this. It has this one of the great things growing up watching these shows. One of the great things is having these characters that you love, and watching them progress. So let's take Dragon Ball Z, for example. Goku goes from this little kid who just fights men and machines, and he trains, and he has specific types of training. It's not super in depth, but it's these sort of specific types, like wear these heavy clothes and fight in this higher level of gravity in order to increase your strength and speed. Little things that you can kind of understand why they're doing it, and you can understand why it would make them stronger. That kick-ass scene in Dragon Ball Z where they take off their clothes and they drop the clothes, and it's like this insane weight that just slams to the ground, and you realize, oh shoot, they've been moving all around in that all this time. And, that stuff like that makes the show better. It helps progress the show. Naruto joins up with Jiraiya, and they actually have actual training that shows him progressing from this little, what is it? Juning, I don't remember all that stuff, from the low level ninja and gaining these new abilities. And it's actual training. Like, I want you to hold this water balloon in your hand, use your chakra to try to make it spin without popping the balloon. It's like kind of practical, where you understand why they're doing it, what the reason is, and how it would help the character progress to that next level. That's the interesting part, is watching these characters grow and watching them going on the journey with them through that growth and that progression. And a lot of some of these in the lazier manga, like Bleach, this guy would be like, I can't beat this bad guy. Okay, come train with me. All right. Swing your sword several times. Now you're stronger. So you have these stupid characters just swinging the sword, and they're not. You don't. There's no progression or growth. It's just this stupid bullshit couple of episodes where the character is unable to do something, and then the teacher tells them, "Be stronger," and they're just stronger. Swing your sword several times. That made you stronger. You now have a new ability. And the same thing was done in Yu Yu Hakusho, which is another reason why I didn't love the anime. And you see it in this show. So Kurobawa, I forget the guy's name, the regular human kid, the bull who gets beat up by Urameshi all the time, the blonde hair. He's just a regular human. He don't have access to these abilities. Don't really know jack shit too much about this whole spirit thing. But he goes with them on the training, and they give him these wooden swords, and he's swinging. He's just hitting a rock with the swords and break. He's swinging the sword and hitting a rock with the sword until it breaks, and he just keeps doing that. And then he develops a power. What the fuck? Should I go outside and just start swinging swords at trees? Will I just become an MMA fighter? So it's stupid shit like that be happening in these shows, where these guys are just swinging their swords or just doing some irrelevant shit, and then at the end of the episode, you've developed a new power. Oh, great! Urameshi is his training is just to stand on his finger. After he stands on his finger long enough, now he can shoot a bazooka out of his finger. There's no like practical training or progression that they go on. It's just like the writers of the original writers of the manga were just like, well, this is what is to be expected in these action stories. The character's supposed to progress via training, so here you go. They went to a dojo and now they're stronger. You got it, stupid reader. Buy my book. Buy my show. So they were doing shit like that. I think that to me, honestly, I think that was really the only issue that I had with the show. And again, that is from the manga. Everything else was done very well. The character in the show is this guy who gets big and he has like this little demon brother that sits on his shoulder. The image that you see of them together looks cheap and fake, but in the show, when you're watching the show, it doesn't look cheap or fake. The little demon guy actually just looks disturbing and actually looks like a threat and feels like a threat. So all in all, I was very surprised at this show. Very surprised. I wasn't expecting to like it. I thought it was going to be a piece of horse shit. But I enjoyed it. The beginning when they're in Japan, and Romeshi is that stereotypical tough guy, Japanese high school student. It actually was believable, and I liked it, and I enjoyed it. Yu Yu Hakusho is not a great show. The original anime, not a great show. But this show, because it's in live action, kind of elevated it a little bit. And because they toned down certain things that you would need to tone down to make it live action, that made the show it made it palatable and it made it good. So yeah, if you can find this somewhere, I would suggest checking it out. It's actually kind of interesting. I'm wondering what the next seasons are going to be, because again, the anime just kind of devolves into them. You know, at the beginning of the season, they're weaker than they should. The beginning of the season, they're weaker than they should be. So they go do some bullshit training, become stronger, and then they fight in a tournament. And then now they're super strong and they beat the people that they need to beat, that they're assigned to beat in the tournament. And then the next season they're weaker than they should be, so they do some bullshit training, and then they go to the tournament and they beat the people who they're assigned to beat in the tournament, and now they're super strong. And then the next season they're weaker, and it's kind of like the same thing for a few seasons, and then at the end I think they go to Demon World, some shit like that, I forget. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do in this. Another thing I will say is that this show, it did what you see in most of these anime action shows, where a whole episode is devoted to like one fucking fight. And I thought that I wasn't gonna like that, or I thought I was gonna be annoyed by that, and I was becoming a little tired of it towards the end. But the choreography and the special effects were put together so well, and were married together so well, that I was actually able to sit and just watch it, because it's not just a cartoon of just this happening for a whole episode. It's now live action, and so it's more exciting to see, or fantastic to see. So it made it better. So it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. It was actually enjoyable, and I wanted to see where these fights were going to go and what was going to happen. So I think people will actually enjoy this. This is another good anime remake. So now I'm kind of excited for Avatar. Shit. I mean, as much as I hate Netflix, these fuckers are starting to produce some. They're starting to go back to form where they're producing good stuff. Of course, they're still racist, pathetic, dick sucking animals. But other than that, I am enjoying the stuff that I'm seeing. Luckily, I'm able to see it for free, and I'm not paying them or anything like that. And, this isn't an endorsement of Netflix. Don't sign up to their service just to watch this one fucking show. Do what I did, find it somewhere free if you can, and check it out, and let me know what you think.